Hello guys, welcome back to the channel. Today we're gonna see how to make hard industrial techno like LS41. So we go back to the artist video this week. Just one information, since lots of people have been asking for the sample pack I use in my videos, from now on I will try to put in the description the different links and sample pack that I use. Alright, so let's get into this track. Alright, so let's start with the kick. Before we begin, just so you know, there is a very good video from the YouTube channel of Marcin Rashki, that LS41 explain how they made their kicks. So it's very useful information if you want to check it out. So basically what they say in this tutorial is that there's a lots of layer to do this kind of hard industrial kicks. The main thing to master is the compression, the dynamics of the kick, and lots of EQs. Since you put lots of distortion on the different tracks, it's very hard to manage to keep the power and the distortion, but also keep it very clean. For this, as you can see, I used several layers, and there's two main kicks for this track. And also I used what I call the support kicks. I used the transient only for these kicks. The method and framework that I use for this kick is the same for each of these kick. This is the framework that I used in my industrial kick video that you can check out. So basically I have several layers. I have some layers for the grid, for the transient, for the rumble, mid kicks, a main kick, and top kicks. Here we go. We'll go through everything. So there's lots of processing, lots of EQs, and just so you know, sometimes I went back to the group processing, sometimes I was tweaking here, and then I go back here, so it wasn't a linear process. Sometimes you have to go in the group processing, make some modifications, go back here to the layers, trying to manage the volume, and so it takes a bit of time. And even LS41, with their experience, they say sometimes they can spend hours on this kind of kicks. So that's a normal thing. The most important part of it is that you are improving your ear, the way you hear the different frequencies and how you tweak them. This comes with experience. All right, so here we go with the first kick. So this is without processing, and with the group processing. I'm gonna see each layer. All right, so first we have this main kick. This is a sample from NN. So you can buy this sample pack if you'd like. So as you can see, it's already a processed kick. I didn't do much on it. It's just that I kept only the first part of it, because in this hard industrial style, you really have like sharp kick, transient, punch at the beginning of the kick, and then you have huge rumbles usually. So this was my main sample. I added a bit more mid because here it was quite in the low and mids, so just enhancing the mid. So here it's just a basic kick sample on which I put some distortion. I just isolate the mids, and I put the sidechain just to keep only the punch, the transient part. So without effects, you see. So just mid. Then I have the same kind of sample that I've just reduced to get a top kick. So to do that, first I add this kick. It was like a soft kick. And there just take the top and mid part of it. So now I have a good punch. Then I add my layers for the rumble. I used the same kind of samples for this kick that I put in 16ths. So basically I take, like for example, this sample. I duplicate like this. I reduce the attack here. I duplicate. And there you go, you have a rumble. So just a bit of saturation and of course low pass filter. And then sidechain. So for this one, I chose to take a very sharp sidechain. And I did another rumble with another sample, but that was quite similar. But this time I used 2 sidechain. And so first one was not as sharp and second one was sharp, but only 80%. So I have different groove thanks to this. And then it's the same processing, so a bit of saturation and of course EQ. So I just found the lows here, kind of rumble that is in 16th note. And then I have my true rumble. So here it's just a mass of sub. And to do this, I show you every time, but this is the way I do my rumbles. So you take a kick sample, whatever the kick. You put some distortion. So usually I take the amp in heavy mode so that I have something that is distorted and very compressed. Then I put convolution reverb, 100%. And then you just EQ and keep only the lows. There you go. Of course, I gotta put a limiter. And then you just need the sidechain. So depending on where you place your EQ, you will have more low mids or high mids. And depending on the number of saturation, you have something with more or less grit, also depending on the kick. And so to get this sample, you can freeze and flatten the track. And so you have your rumble here. There you go. So it's a different rumble. Here it was a bit more compressed, but this would work also. So that's it for my main kick, top kicks, mid kick and rumble. And then I have just a bit of grit to get more industrial feeling. So I have this one. So it's an impact on which I put out the lows, of course, so that I don't clash with the rumble and the kick. So the impact was like this, but I pitch it down because when you pitch it down, you get the interesting harmonics that fills with the industrial vibe. I put more distortion and I isolate this part so that it gives this grit. And finally, I have this transient, snare transient. So as I said, with these hard industrial techno kicks, you usually have big transient that is prominent. I used here a kick to get a bit more transient. So I just isolate the mid and highs. And here it's another kick that I've pitched down, I think, yeah. So same thing as the impact. So it gives me a kind of snare. So this is my kick, starting from there. So the goal here was having a good punch, having all the frequencies, and now we need to distort the thing to saturate and manage the compression. So also I just added a drum bus here on the snare. So just to get more compression, more slap in the snare. The side chain to get only the transient. All right. And so now I have lots of processing, but you see there's lots of EQs. So first I put up the saturation. So this really gives me the industrial vibe. And then it's all about managing the compression and EQing until I get the result that I want. So here it's just a mild compression. Also I put the volume a bit down. And usually when I put lots of distortion, there's mud around 300, 200 Hertz here. And here there was a bit more, too much eyes. This doesn't do anything, but then I have another one, so I put back a bit of punch. I EQ also here, because sometimes there's some boxy resonances. And then I kind of duplicated all of these EQs, so it's not very conventional. What you need to do here is really using your ears, trying to overing the resonances and see if you can withdraw them or boost some frequencies and see the result. So it's really about your experience and using your ears. Just one rule: when you EQ, usually it's better when you do some narrow EQing, when you withdraw some frequencies, and when you boost the frequencies, it's better to use like large cues. This way you will avoid to make some unnecessary resonances when boosting, and it's better to be more precise when withdrawing some frequencies. And also on those kicks, what I like to do is add an amp just with a mild amp with the eyes. So here, this really puts forward back the highs. Then I added also a bit more highs and some EQing at the end. And that's pretty much it for this kick. So for my second kick, I used exactly the same method. So I have also the same processing on the group, like it's exactly the same. It's just a different main kick at the beginning. So it's also an NN sample. Actually, this one is free, so you can get it if you like. And I think I have another grid layer. It's a kick that I've pitched up. A bit of saturation, sidechain. I have also my impact. And then I have exactly the same rumble. Mid kick, top kicks. Maybe a bit of different EQ, but it's the same method. And also in this track I have some support kicks that I made with the same framework. Another kick sample. It's a bit more simple. There's no grid layers. It's only the rumble, a top kick, and the kick. And also maybe a different snare. Like this one also. You see slight variation. Here there's more reverb. And I have a last one. Same thing. Even more simple. Just a main kick and a rumble and a snare. And you see in the process, I tried different saturation, but in the end, I didn't use it. But yeah, that's pretty much it. And so finally in my track, there is again new layers. So this is my first kick. And I added this kick support, but I only kept the transient part. So here I just added a bit of top kick. Here it's the transient from the kick support one. So here I only keep the first part. Here there's the whole thing. So it adds a bit of mid, saturation, and then after transient for the second kick. And so this gives a bit more punch. For the first one. Also I have a reverb. So to do this, I just took my kick sample on which I have put a convolution reverb, a sidechain, and some EQs. So here I withdraw lots of lows because I don't want to clash with the bass, and it was just to add a room and a bit of reverb because I felt like it was missing a bit. And actually in their tracks, LS41, they used lots more reverb. If you want to get really like the same result as them, you gotta put some huge reverbs. And then it's the same thing with my second kick. So I have this transient. So it kind of adds a bit of punch during the track, and this brings also more intensity. So for instance, this one, I only bring it here. Okay, so now I'm gonna go through the drums and the perks. So first, the drums. So I have a simple ride here. So it's just a 9/9 ride. So yeah, lots of overdrive, drum bass. So actually, it's a bit of useless. Just that I copy pasted sometimes the channels. So that's why I have so much compression, because sometimes I use it here. And I copy pasted the tracks, but here what you need to get is the noise, the saturation here to get a more fuller sound. And then this transient at -1, it's kind of giving a groove because it's ducking the sample. And then I have my sidechain. And of course, a bit of EQs. So I don't want it too much low mids because I wanted to hear better the kicks. And I have also lots of screeches and some mid-range frequencies already in my track. And I just withdraw here resonancy. I didn't want it. Then I have some open hats and some hi-hats. So here, a basic hat. You can take whatever. What is important is the processing that you will put on it. So you see, it's just a basic hat. Already, what gives this kind of noisy feeling is the vocoder. So if I withdraw the vocoder, it's just some noise, but it's a bit harsh because I have lots of overdrive, of course. But you can use for industrial techno, you can use this vocoder to get this noisy feeling. And also with the unvoice here, get something with a bit more transient. So here I want full sound, so I have lots of overdrives. So it's strong. The drum bass is giving the compression here with the transient. So that's something that is sharp. And then I have some sidechain. And actually it's a big sidechain. And this really plays with the hi-hats, because on the hi-hats I have the same processing. So I have my 3 overdrives, I have the vocoder, I just switched the plates, and I have the same groove that I get from the drum bass, so that I have something that is sharp. And at first it was just a hat, like a basic hat, but I have reduced the transient here, or the BPM, so that I get something that was more sharp. And you also have the sidechain, and since both of them are in the same kind of room and feeling because of the vocoder, the groove is really like coming from this. There's like a sustained hi-hat, and when the open hat is coming, it's like bouncing, and so you get that that feeling with the kick. So that's pretty much it for the drums. Also, I have a perk loop here. So again, since I was duplicating the channels, there's 3 same overdrive. Just here that I have some reverb and echo. So pretty big reverb and some echo. And so here I made a little pattern. So this was a hi-hat at first. Processing, it's a bit mild, of course, but I put so much noise. So that's why you really need to put out the lows and putting a bit sidechain, or this will pretty much eat the whole track. So what gives the industrial feeling is really the reverb and the echo, and you get the noise from the vocoder and lots of saturation. It really gives some drive to the track at this point. And just on the group, I have again just a high pass to withdraw the lows and a small reverb, small room reverb. All right, so sorry, it's a bit of a mess on my channels. So as you can see, there's lots of EQs, lots of processing, different plugins. Sometimes it's a bit useless. I could have done only one EQ. But what you need to get from this explanation is that what I first want to do is I take any sound source, I put lots of distortion to get the hard industrial style. So at the point at which it's almost some noise, and you can't really hear some acoustic percussions or drums or whatever. And then you have to manage this distortion to get the right compression, if you want something punchy, or if you want something that's a bit more long, so you can manage this with the compressor. And you have to manage also lots of resonances that comes from the saturation. And so that's why there's lots of EQs. So now we're going to go and dive into the screeches. So I have lots of screech in this track. I'm going to first start with this one. So I kind of used some of the channels that I made for the carve tutorial. So sometimes it's nice to recycle and take some good ideas that worked. At first, there was this clap that I transformed into noise. So you can see the basic sample at first. So it's a 99 clap from Ableton. I pitched it down and I just put lots of noise, overdrive, some trash, saturation. I managed the compression, again with the transient from the drum bus. I put out the lows and some other saturation, some reverb, some delay. So this transformed this clap into this big noise with a huge reverb at the end and a delay. So you can play with the pitch. This was the noise from the carve track. And then I just played this pitch. And it feels like almost if someone is shouting with a bit of noise. So yeah, sometimes just experiment for these hard industrial tracks. Just put lots of distortion. Try different grooves with different notes. Here it's the pitch. And you can get some good results. So here I just play with a different pitch along the track. And then I have my break. And so to make this even more harsh noise, I used here a resonancy with the Akkya. So I'm just boosting this frequency so that I get something that's really shouting, that's really harsh. And here to get this effect, I think I'm playing here with the frequency. So I just put an automation here on the filter with the frequency so that it moves. So you can play around with these parameters. I'll do the same here, whereas it goes back to the first sample. And this is what I did for this one. Here it's playing just with the normal pitch. And so with only one element, the clap, I can play with the resonances, the frequencies, the pitch, move around some filters to get different tones from this noise. So then I have this other screech. So again, it's something that I use in the curve track, but this time it was made in Serum. So it's just some noise that is playing, and there's just an envelope that goes into the filter. So here this LFO is linked to the noise so that it plays high and goes down, and you have a filter envelope. So it goes in the highs and then in the lows. So you can play around with this. And then it's just boosting the sound, get even more resonancy with the amp, and have a huge room with reverb and delay, and of course sidechain. And same thing here, same technique. I use an automation on the frequency. So it's kind of a second filter envelope that is adding to the Serum one. And I just play here the different parts. And finally, I have a last noise group here. So it's the same Serum patch, I guess. Yeah, and same processing, it's just a different filter envelope here. I play with different resonancy. So then in my break, I felt it was a bit lacking, the noise here. So I added the screech that I made in Serum. So it's just a basic init preset. I turn up the unison to the maximum with lots of detune. I have some FM with the noise, any kind of noise. And then I have some effects, so lots of distortion, here, delay, reverb, compression, and just bring out the lows. And then I boost it with the amp. So you can try and play with the patch that will be included in the project file, but I will do, if you want, a video on Screech. Alright, so then I have these other Screeches. So you see, with all of these Screeches, I play a call and answer. So this one is calling, this one is answering, this one is calling, this one is answering. And I have this noise lead group. It's more of a mid range. And this other one is more higher range. And I have also this one. And so all of these screeches are adding up together to have a full sound and cover the full spectrum, frequency spectrum. And I make some variations. So here my call and answer is changing in terms of sound, but it's the same pattern. Here it's answering to this one. I have another layer here to put even more intensity. And then I have the variation at the end. So for this screech, I have used Serum also. So I think it's just a noise with a resonancy, but I guess what makes the sound is this envelope. So you see here, it's just a noise with a small decay and just a bandpass filter. But what makes the noise is this filter envelope. So it makes move going in the highs and go down in the lows, and then everything is boosted with these amps. And of course, my reverb. So I don't put more than 10% in terms of reverb, because otherwise it will be too much of a mess with all of these layers. I think this one is just a layer. So yeah, it's the same patch, same processing. It's just that I play here my resonancy with this EQ8. Then I have this screech. The init preset, small decay again, and I boost the whole thing with some saturation, a resonancy that I create. And then my reverb. At first it was just this to put some noise. So actually all of these sounds, you can use any kind of a sound source. So you see here I use the clap, here's just a serum. So here it's a noise, here it's a saw wave. So whatever the sound source, basically it becomes sound, it becomes noise with all of this saturation, and then you create the resonancy or the pitch for the screech that you want to play. And everything is putting into a big room with this kind of reverbs. So here instead I used a screech sample, and then just lots of saturation, overdrive, whatever, just try different parameters. Boost the whole thing. You play with the decay here, if you want something short, something longer, also with the note that you play, and then you put it into a huge reverb to get this massive sound. And you can play also with the resonances. But then you have to be careful because it could be too harsh, so that's why I put down some of the resonancy in the mixing phase, and everything must be sidechain. Otherwise it's gonna clash with the rest of the track. And so here I just have some variation. So here I play some small notes. It's higher pitch, lower pitch. And so when it goes into a higher pitch, as you can see, I have put down the volume. So to do that, it's better to use an utility, because if you use it here and you want in the mixing phase to move the volume, you cannot do it because you will have an automation. So it's better to make your mixing here, and if you gotta manage the volume, depending on if it plays a higher note, a higher pitch or lower note, you can use this utility and boost or withdraw some volume around the track. So yeah, that's pretty much it for all of these screeches. So you see I combine different noise, different pitch. I play the call and answer. I use the same pattern, but I change the sound source. And this really can give me lots of variation and possibilities in my track. All right, so then we have a few effects and other artifacts. So first I'm gonna deep dive into the vocal. So just before the break, I bring this vocal. Freak up inside your illness. Take that in your fucking mind. So to do that, I just recorded my voice and just saying some damn thing. Freedom inside your illness. Take that in your fucking mind. So I think I just said the title of one of the LS41 tracks. And just boosting the thing up again with some distortion, big reverb, and that's the way that you get something like this. And I just added a different vocal here. Here, same thing, I just recorded my voice, but this time I put a vocoder, and that gives... Wait for it. Wait for it. This thing. Wait for it. Wait for it. And there's a reverb here also in the return track. So that's it for the vocal. Then I have this bass effect. So I was just trying to find something unexpected, bass sound that comes in the break. So it's kind of answering to the first screech, and this was a bit unexpected and I liked it. So I just put a random bass sound that I found in samples. Just try and find something that you like, and then again, same processing, some amp to distort the thing, some reverb and sidechain. And also here in this part, I added this small part of the bass just at the end of each bar. And so this gives a bit of drive at this point in the track. I liked it. And actually I did the same first with this kind of glitch. And how I made this glitch is actually a happy accident. I think this was one of my screech, and I just have like this small sample that I put without knowing here, and this made this sound, and so I kept it because I found it cool. And this is really what gives this driving effect when there is the drop with the second kick. Like tuck 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 tuck. And so I kept it because the rhythmic was interesting. And then there's a few other effects, transitions. So here it's just a sweep up just before the drop. So here I just made it, just use a sample. And I stopped just right before the drop. Then I have these two vinyl scratches that I reversed. So at first, this was just some vinyl scratch. And I reverse it. And I put another one. And so all of this together with also the snare roll. So I just took the snare, a 9/9 snare that I've pitched up here, 6 semitones. Then basic, just here, small variation. To kind of build up the thing, and then everything together, it builds this transition. And then boom, the drop. Here, just a vocal, reverse vocal. So again, it's the same idea with this bass sound in the break. It's kind of a way to bring something unexpected and different, to break a bit the 8-bar loop with only the kick, even if it's very effective to have only the kick for this kind of drop. But here it felt cool to put a kind of sample like this. Then I have another sweep to prepare for the transition, and I use the same vinyl scratch. And that's it for the transitions. And so, yeah, in terms of arrangement, also what we can see is that I have my first phase, so it kind of mimic an intro of a track with the first kick. Then I have my break, so I build up the break with the screech that plays and call an answer with the kicks, so like this. So it builds up, then I have this snare roll, the transition, then huge drop. So only the kick and some screech. Then I add some other screeches with different patterns or different pitch. And then finally I bring the ride and also the perk loop. I also make a kind of a fake drop here. Well, not a fake drop, but it's a first drop, and then I put another unexpected drop directly with some perks here. And then I kind of anticipate the end of this phase with, again, the long sweep and the transition from the vinyl, reverse vinyl. And this brings me to the last part, when I withdraw all of the screeches and I keep the intensity because I bring back the drums. So you can listen. So I replace the intensity from the screech with the intensity from the drums and the drive from the hi-hats and open hats. So that was my version of the LS41 tracks. I think my version is a bit more, there's a bit more noise and screech, especially in the drop. In LS41, there's less artifacts and effects. They really love like the drop with only the kick and a few screech. And also their kicks has a bit more reverb. You can check the tutorial from Marcin Rashki. That was it, guys. Thank you very much if you've been to the end so far, and I hope you like it, and see you in the next one.